Is it science or sense?
Episode of Science or Sense with your host Randy, of course, and Matt Gio, aka Matt. How you doing, man?
Good. How are you?
I am doing fantastic. We got a very light episode, I should say. It's not going to be very morbid as the last couple ones may have been. Well, according to some people, it might have been a little too deep.
Yep.
But at the same time, we are talking about Archeopolis.
Okay.
At least that's what I call it.
All right.
How we stand on the people who came before, whether it be civilizations, diatribes, deities, whatever. We got them all here, folks. It's right here on planet Earth, live and direct. Wow. I forgot to take the silencer off on that one. Excuse the,
it happened.
Excuse it, folks. Excuse the ding noise of my computer here. But, Matt, man, we have something that's more in the realm of your studies, your active studies, let's say. Archaeology is not it. We already covered that, but it's paleontology, and I would say they are hand in hand in the science family. Would you agree with that?
They do overlap. Yeah, they do overlap, and there's similarities in the way that they're both performed. So yeah. In that way, they could be said one and the same.
But I mean, why would people confuse archaeology with paleontology? Just like off the cuff for someone who really doesn't pay attention.
I don't know. I mean, I got this when I first got into geology. In general, people are like, oh, like Indiana Jones. I'm like, no, not Indiana Jones. Indiana Jones was an archaeologist. He was an archaeologist. He went around. He looked for artifacts. Right? They look for human civilization artifacts, that type of stuff. And geologists, paleontologists look for fossils of organisms to indicate past life on planet Earth. So different. And then there's anthropology. We talked about this off the air, but anthropology is the study of human culture and kind of how it's shifted through the years. So they do overlap in the sense that a paleontologist is going to be out there looking for bones of either dinosaurs or invertebrates or possibly human fossils, and then those human fossils are going to relate to anthropology, and those anthropology are going to relate to things like spearheads or stone tools, which could be anthropology related, and then later, more recently, things like artifacts. So
kind of like what's going on at the San Bernardino Museum, how they have exhibits that usually rotate around. I assume the different museums.
Yeah.
Like, okay, here's what we found in the local area from active scientists who are in their respective fields, and you better come check the stuff out because this is your local history.
Right.
Shout out to them. It is a cool little exhibit. We went over there for the geology exhibit, but today, we are not talking about the rocks. We're talking about what people turn into, which is rocks, fossils.
Right.
And you know what? It's just something off the cuff, real quick.
Okay.
Fossil, the apparel brand.
Yes.
I just got it.
Oh.
Do you get it? Fossil.
Fossil. Yeah.
Did you ever? Did you know that, or did you? I mean.
No, I mean it's a brand name. It's what they.
But think about it. Fossil. What? It's us.
Well,
maybe I'm thinking too deep.
Yeah, that's a little too deep into it. There's a lot of things that are fossil. Like there's body fossils, which are the organisms. There's trace fossils, which are footprints, and yeah. I don't know why they chose that name. I like the name fossil, but
I used to rock fossil watches, but it's fine. All I'm saying is it just in a snap instant, it's like, oh my god, I just got their apparel name, fossil, because we're living fossils.
Okay.
Is that too?
I don't know.
Supposed to keep it light.
Maybe we should contact them and ask them what the etymology of their name is and why they use that. So
I'm gonna try to keep it light. So
okay.
We actually are piggybacking off of last week's episode where we were talking about Californians way back in the day when a lot of this wasn't going on apparently.
Right.
So now I want to talk about the history of the Americas in general, about civilizations that came and gone. Yes, we know about the Native Americans, European conquistadors, and all that stuff that came through. But I'm talking about the actual places and times of those people back then. I mean, they're us, but not modern day.
Right.
They would be Homo sapiens, right? I mean,
yeah. Well, so in North America, Homo sapiens sapiens, if you want to get technical with it.
Well, we deal with technicalities right here, but yes, go ahead.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know what order we want to go in, but if we want to look at the migration of human species across the planet, you know, I mean, it's kind of important to talk about, like, you know, what is a human?
What does make a human?
Yeah,
You're
well,
the paleontologist. I'm the one with the questions.
That's a question. So, you know, modern humans, we identify based on brain size. You know, obviously we're upright bipedal hominids. But if we go back in time, there are other bipedal hominids that we recognize.
You
So
mean like
Neanderthalensis and Homo erectus
Right.
and those Denisovans.
Actually, they're new.
It's somewhat of a newer find, right?
Right.
Yeah,
They were
yeah.
found in some cave in Russia.
In a cave in Russia, I believe, yeah, in Siberia.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, for what we know of as far as like modern humans, 400,000 to 200,000 years ago is when we would recognize as Homo sapiens are, you know, alive and well and thriving in southern Africa.
Right.
And then there was kind of a pulse where those organisms kind of started migrating out. And then we see populations of organisms that aren't Homo sapiens in other areas. So there's Homo neanderthalensis, and they're kind of in, you know, the Iberian Peninsula, Western Europe. Homo erectus is also in northwestern Africa and kind of the where else? India, Asia, those places. And then there was another pulse out. So there was, at one point around, you know, 40,000 to 70,000 years ago, there was Homo sapiens living in southern Africa.
Mm-hmm.
There was Homo neanderthalensis living in Western Europe, and then there was Homo erectus in portions of Asia. And
Wait, so they were. So is that where the Caucasoid, Negroid, and Mesozoic come from?
No, not necessarily.
That was in their books with the Malthus books, and
Yeah,
Darwin's books, and all that.
Yeah, I mean, that's an old kind of differentiation. But now, so basically, there's Homo neanderthalensis, Homo erectus, Homo sapiens, Homo denisovan, Homo robustus. There's a lot of those basically human species at one time on the planet. And then what we now know is that after about 40,000 years ago, when Neanderthals went extinct, and then erectus not too long, I think before that, we now know based on genetic evidence that there was some interbreeding between the two populations. For instance, I just got my DNA
Bible
done.
says don't do that. Don't do that.
Don't mix.
Don't mix.
Yeah, I just got my DNA done actually, and I am 3 to 4% Neanderthal DNA.
Now, see,
So-
here's the problem with, at least it's in my purview. Here's the problem with the
Okay.
whole genealogy testing thing. How do you know they're telling the truth? You can just easily spit in a tube, and they just say, "Oh yeah, we'll just wait about 2 weeks, send them some in the mail, and be like, okay, here you go." How do you know for sure? And
why
this is someone asking a paleontologist.
Right, but why wouldn't they want to give me the correct results?
Why should they? You gave them the money already.
Right, but under what reason would they have for giving me false?
Look, I'm just.
I'm
I'm a skeptic.
It'd be
okay?
bad business, right?
I'm skeptical.
You know,
It's a healthy skepticism. You're saying, you're telling me to swap some spit.
I have no
tube.
reason to believe that they would
Come
mislead
on.
me in that way. Why would they? Provide me
Why
with
would
a
they
reason.
not?
How does it behoove them? Why does it
They
benefit
just take
them?
your money. That's the
Right.
only reason why I haven't done. See, look, I have this theory. Okay.
Okay, here.
It's just a
Let
theory.
me
Go ahead.
let me give you an example as to how I know. One of the best ways for me to know that they didn't mess with me. So before I did my DNA
Okay.
tests, I knew that I had, based on I guess an ancestor of mine, a relative of mine from the East Coast that I didn't know, did the whole kind of tracing their lineages back.
Sure.
And so that you have no problem with that, right? People tracing back their family history, and
People have done that if they're living relatives, the ones who are like
right.
maybe 3 or 4 generations out, kept records.
Exactly, right.
Sure.
So she contacted me and said, "Hey, your grandmother's grandmother or whatever was my, blah blah blah," and this is just through genealogy, just from historical records and birth records and things like that.
Sure.
Okay, so that was done. Then I do this DNA thing, and lo and behold, she's done it too. And 23andMe, who I went through, giving them a little props.
I've heard of them. Yeah.
They right when I submitted my my okay to check my other relatives, she popped up as a genetic match to me
as
a second or third cousin.
descendant.
Yeah, not a descendant, as a second or third cousin.
Okay.
So we share, based on her DNA result and my DNA result, we share such a significant amount of our DNA that we got paired up as genetic relatives on the 23andMe website because she did the same DNA test as I did. So if they were,
okay.
if they gave me a false report, then I wouldn't have been matched up with somebody that I am a true relative of based on independent research.
So All right. Two things. You both submitted your information to this gene checking facility, the genealogy people, right? Okay, so
But they didn't know we were related before.
do you guys share any type of name?
Nope.
Like surname?
Nope.
Anything like
Nope.
that? So y'all both just spit in the jar and then it's
Yep.
like, okay, 2 weeks later,
Yep.
here's the results.
Yep.
I'm only skeptical because it's like, if you do that with one of them, put it this way, let me give you the full theory, then I'll elaborate why I had a little skepticism.
Okay.
I figure if there's at least 4, maybe 5 in current times right now that people you can just submit your spit or blood to get your genealogy report, right? I said, okay, if you at least choose 3 of them, that way you can't get a false positive. If 2 of the 3 say that this is what it is, then okay, then you're good to go. Walks like a duck, quacks like a duck. It is a duck. My thing is, you only went with 1, and yeah, you said it was your aunt, your
That was a great
grandmother?
It was a second or third cousin.
Cousin. Okay, you might have got lucky on that one.
That's wow.
I'm just saying. I would need at least 2 out of 3 to say to that. Okay, I might not be African American. I might just be Native American, or I might be something like that. Give me 2 out of 3 reports out of 3 results, then I'll believe it. That's kind of skepticism. People just go off of the first one. Like, I've tried Ancestry.com. Nothing showed up.
What do you mean nothing showed up?
I went to Ancestry.com.
You submitted DNA?
Yes.
Okay.
And nothing showed up.
Nothing showed up as far as what you mean?
Wait, Ancestry doesn't do DNA. They do
They just do your last name and you know, whatever.
That's
Right.
No, that's what I did. I did the DNA, not the DNA, the last name thing,
Yeah.
and nothing popped up.
Okay.
So
that's
I was
fine.
like, either A, I was like, okay, maybe they don't have enough information. No one
Right.
submitted it.
Right.
So it made me a little bit discouraged. I'm reluctant to do the DNA one because I'm like, okay, what's going to accurately say that this is what it is? How do I know they're going to tell me that whatever they found is me, or they just give me take me for a ride, essentially?
Okay. I guess the question I would have is why would they do that? So they're a business. Their business is run off of providing people with DNA evidence, right, as to their heritage and their lineage and things like that. So, as a company, would it be good business for you to not give somebody their accurate results? So the testing for DNA is
I don't know. That's saying this whole.
I think it would be very bad. I think it would be very bad business.
That's what I'm saying.
Right?
All these
if
these
you
new
go to
backtracing things, they're showing up. I'm like, okay.
If you go
there's
to
too many popping up at one time.
No, the reason. Okay, let me tell you why the reason that is. So genetic testing, when they did the genetic genome, the Human Genome Project, and all these things.
Yeah, when they cracked it.
It was very expensive to run DNA analysis to determine that, right? And for other organisms, very expensive.
Sure.
The price of that has come way down. So now companies know that it's profitable to offer this service. So mine was $100. I took a swab, spit in the thing.
That seems to be the run-of-the-mill price.
Yeah, that's about right.
Yeah.
And the test probably cost them, maybe, I don't even know how much profit they're making with all the people, but maybe the test cost them $13-15 to run. That small of a cost, it would not be good business of them to pocket that $13 and give me a false result.
Well, they wouldn't be pocketing
it would
13.
It would be very. Well, they have to pay their employees. They have to pay for, whatever it is. Their profit margin is enough for them to stay in business, right?
Sure.
But it would be so easy for them to be found out that they were giving false results, because let's say my mom and myself and whatever, we submit these in, and all they're doing is just giving random false results to people. Then we would never show a genetic relationship to our relatives that are around us, and I guarantee you that is not happening.
So okay, you've subsided some skepticism about the genealogy report as far as why they're popping up so frequently, why there's so many businesses starting up like that.
Yeah, it's profitable.
Okay, that's subsided. I grant you that. I'm just saying, maybe it's because I don't know exactly what they're retrieving to get those results to acquire. Okay, this is what your DNA is. Are they pulling this from other people's samples?
It all comes
the
down.
skepticism
So
right
they
there.
take your saliva, and from your saliva you have your DNA in it, and
Sure.
you can do this in biology class. My wife does it with her classes. You can pull within 15 minutes. You can have a strand of your DNA basically put into a little necklace you can wear around your neck. It's a very easy process to do. Now
Now it's fashionable.
analyzing is a little bit different, right? That's a little more difficult.
Okay.
But this is something that DNA is. It changes over time, and we can track those changes, which is how we know that we're closely related to chimpanzees and bonobos and things like that.
I don't doubt that one bit.
Right. Okay, so so the same concept goes for people, right? So you and I are related at some point back in history.
Because we're the same species.
Well, we're related to everything. We're related to even separate species. We're related to genetically.
You on that stuff again, man? You talking about the trees and plants?
No, we are. We're related to everything. We're related to snails. We're related to everything out there.
I kid. Okay, look, I just want to clarify. I'm only skeptical because there were so many. Again, you subsided that query that I had. That there were so many popping up at one time. It's like, okay, first it was just the Ancestry.com, and then they did a little modification to their business practice. Then it became 23andMe. Then it became something chromosome.
Yeah, there's one through National Geographic, which is the best one right now because they have a more robust. I don't know what you would call it, but they test a couple of different things, and they're able to give you a more robust.
Well, they got that Fox money now. They should be able to do a good job.
But I mean, back to whether if you went to GameStop to buy a video game and you paid your money and they gave you a music CD, they'd go out of business really quick. So this place, they are doing this business because one, maybe they just want to provide everybody with good DNA, so we have a good background. But it's profitable, and they know how to do the analysis right, so that people can get a much better picture of their genealogy and their ancestry.
I still want to try it.
Yeah, I would say do it for anybody. It's very interesting.
It was getting very expensive because I was like, oh man, there's so many of these places popping up. How are they going to get the right results on the first shot? So that's why I was like, maybe I need to do at least 3 of them. That way I get a high accuracy. So
no, I'd say
2 out of 3. Okay, cool. That's exactly what it is. There's no denying it.
There's no denying it with one. Your DNA is what your DNA is.
So, okay, I'll let you go ahead and plug. Who'd you go through?
I went through 23andMe.
Okay, 23andMe. Hit me up. Let's get like a video. Contact me at labservices@gotechielabs.net, and let's try to get something going if y'all listening. Maybe you can get us a discount or something. I don't know. I'm just saying. Like, I know, because I had the conversation with my girlfriend. It's like, you know what? Let's try it. Let's see where this goes. Let's see what our actual lineage is.
Yeah.
And this is how this ties into archaeology, folks. Trust me, we have not segued that far. This is still all part of archaeology and paleontology.
Like I said, I have 3 to 4% Homo neanderthalensis because I am the result of that intermixing between Homo neanderthal and Homo sapiens.
So that means you're not an American. You're not an American. Because that's what this is where this was leading. I want to know what was going on back here.
But if you see these commercials out there, they're great because people who have this misconception about they hate certain people for certain reasons or whatever, and they do their DNA and they find out that hey, I'm a little bit of this. Like I'm 1.1%. I'm 1.1% Italian. I am 13% from I think it's 8% from the Iberian Peninsula, so Portugal, Spain.
Are you saying you?
My ancestors are from the Iberian Peninsula, which I knew beforehand. So that's another reason. So my mom knew that this is something I knew for the past 10 or 15 years that some of my earlier ancestors came over from Portugal and Spain. Like I knew that I had some heritage back there. And then when I get my DNA results back, when I get my DNA results back, there is in there that I think it's like 8% Iberian Peninsula, which is Portugal, Spain, and whatever. So it matches what I kind of had an idea of my heritage was in general, but now I get a more kind of precise picture of that.
So can you give us a precise picture of what was going on in Americas pre this civilization?
So
as a paleontologist.
Yeah. So there's a lot of controls on when humans could have been controls. Yeah, like environmental controls on when. Okay. So that thing we talked about last week, where that fossil find, the Mammoth site, the Cerruti site, dates back to about 130,000 years ago. And the main argument from paleontologists and those who know about human civilization in the Americas is that it would have been almost impossible so basically to inhabit North America, you had to travel through Siberia and across
folks, we're looking at a map here. I don't know if I can put JPEGs on here.
Yeah, I don't know.
I haven't really tried that. I don't think I even can.
I mean it's in the link of that history of the Americas.
Yeah, let me drop that link for you guys. Please go ahead.
And so basically you had to travel across Siberia, and the thing to keep in mind is that North America and basically the whole northern region of the Earth at that point was going through the last ice age. So most of Siberia and over through the Bering Strait and into Alaska and North America, Canada was basically completely covered with a very, very, very thick ice sheet. The conditions would have been very harsh, almost unbearable. So on that map right there, it shows the transition of when that ice sheet started to what we know from geology is the ice sheet started to retreat about 20 to 15,000 years ago. It started to melt back.
So I got to stop you right
Yeah.
there for a second, because I remember from the last episode I was talking about, I was going to bring up the Lumeria, conspiracy theories, of course. But so I got to say, just bridging from this and looking at this map, and whoever's in the chat, and you guys can see this map as well if you go to links in the chat, by the way. There had to be land bridges in, so that whole Lumeria Atlantean concept is not too far fetched. From just from judging from this, and you being a paleontologist.
It depends on what you mean by that. I haven't looked into Lumeria, but
Lumeria, it's okay. In short, because that's a whole conversation within itself.
Yeah.
Lumeria is kind of like what Atlantis was.
Right.
Where people say there was a sort of utopian landmass, and Atlantis was like the creme de la creme. It was Los Angeles or big city, any big city you could think of. That was Atlantis. Now, that's just a watered down version. Lumeria was the same concept, but it was more a bridge, because there was a massive land bridge to get from point A to point B.
But where, though? I guess my question would be, where is this?
Well, again, this is when the continents were different shapes. So I would say any time during either Rhodesia, maybe, or
You mean Rodinia?
I think
There wouldn't have been human civilizations back then.
That's what I say. It's watered down.
Yeah,
if we got into it, it would be
humans,
a huge episode.
The humans have been on this planet since the continents have been in their current configuration.
I'm gonna go for it.
Yeah.
I'll try to keep it
Well,
light, because, like I said,
well, you find that, and I'll finish this up. So basically, the ice sheet started to melt away, but there was still a land bridge from over the Bering Strait, basically. So covering from basically Russia to Alaska. So migration would have carried across that about 15,000 years ago, and then at that point we started to get a population of Homo sapiens sapiens, which are what we are, down into North America and populating the North American continent. So the dates for population of the North American continent go back to about 12 to 15,000 years ago.
Oh, so it wasn't that long ago.
No.
No,
actually, blink of an eye.
It really isn't.
Blink
that
of an
long
eye.
ago.
No, yeah, blink of an eye.
So here it is. Like I said, I didn't want to really get too deep into Lumeria and Atlantean crisis.
Yeah.
But I was air quotes, folks. But
Yeah.
the thing is, okay, I'm just gonna go into internet mode. You ready?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, this is not me. This is internet.
Hit
Matt.
me with
This
it.
is Matt, there was a land on this planet. It used to be called Tiamat, the planet. All
Called what?
The planet was called Tiamat, not Gaia. Tiamat.
This planet.
This planet. Okay. And with that being said, there were two giant land masses or continents, one called Atlantis and the other one's called Lumeria. Right now, we're going to talk about Lumeria, which was named the hypothetical land of the lost. Now, I know what you're thinking. Where is it located? It was located in the Indian and Pacific Oceans. So apparently this was not that long ago. Now, based upon, this is where its scientific origins come from, and granted, folks, I'll put the link in the description in a moment. It says in 1864, the zoologist and biogeographer Philip Slater wrote an article on the mammals of Madagascar in the Quarterly Journal of Science. I think that was like a big publication back then. I'm just going to go with that.
Okay.
The theory is there was hardly unusual during this time land bridges. Now, land bridges, even in some of your oceanography classes, I've seen you talk about it. Like there might have been a connect or with animals just making a migration across the sea to get into another part of the continent at one point in time. Now, would that also play into the role of land bridges? With the whole Lumeria aspect.
Well, how are you spelling Lumeria, first of all?
Lemuria. And I'll clean up the question a little bit. Here it is.
Okay. Hit me.
With this theory of Lumeria and us being what we are as Homo sapiens and all that, is it possible that these places existed based upon
Unlikely.
our fossil records?
Unlikely.
But let's look back at last week's episode. They found mammoth bodies and tools from humans where they shouldn't have been. So that's the ground basis for the Lumeria argument.
Right. But that's what I'm saying. They did not find human and indications of humans in places where they shouldn't have been. They are hypothesizing that they have. They have not been proven to be true in their ideas.
In your purview as a paleontologist, is this plausible?
I would say no.
Why?
Because there's no evidence to support it.
But so you're saying there was no such thing as land bridges either then? Because that's
not
part of the theory. That's like the
right.
integral part is that we had large continent masses like we do now, maybe not the size of Africa or Europe, but we had continents the sizes of what we would consider modern day regular continents, but there were bridges of those land masses that connected them to make them interconnected.
Yeah.
So you're saying those are not possible?
Not in the way that they're presented in this idea of Lumeria. No.
Are you on this one, right? Do you want me to just
yeah,
airdrop it?
I'm looking at it right
Okay.
now. So this was an idea that came about to explain the mammals of Madagascar in the mid 1800s.
Right.
Okay, so this is a popular, and we talked about this when we talked about plate tectonics with Alfred Wegener.
Yes.
One of the ways that Alfred Wegener, for those you don't know, is basically he started continental drift, started understanding. He was the first one to postulate that the continents moved, right? Because when he went around in his research, he found fossils of similar organisms on different continents, different land masses,
Plus
right?
the striations and
A lot of other things, right? But dealing specifically with fossils. So he found these fossils on these different land masses,
right?
And he inferred from that the continents moved and that they were closer together at some point, and that's why they were able to populate these different islands.
Okay, now that Wegener's theory is accepted, how's he might have been missing a piece? Maybe it might have been land. They just didn't swim over there.
Oh, but this is the thing. So and then during his time when he had these ideas,
yeah.
People were saying, no, you don't know what you're talking about. There was a land bridge. That's why we see these fossils. Okay,
but that's not far-fetched, Matt.
It is because there's no evidence for it.
How?
There is
Rocks
no
erode in water with
and we would
weathering,
see that
chemical weathering.
and we would see that
from about
Yes.
100,000 years
Yes.
ago. You will see that.
Yes.
If there was
Yes.
let me just give you
There
a
is
hypothetical
evidence.
scenario.
There is evidence. If there was a land bridge, there would be geological evidence of that land bridge.
Okay, let's say there was a cataclysmic event and it eroded that away. That one little bit that might have been like, oh shit, it was land bridges the whole time. They just didn't swim over there.
Okay.
Because like you said, creatures have to adapt to their environment.
Right.
What creature is going to be that, I guess, that able-bodied, and I'm not saying that's impossible, but that able-bodied to survive on land and swim massive distances.
They didn't swim.
How'd they get there?
The landmass was connected.
Land bridge.
No. They were connected, and then they separated apart due to plate
You're
tectonics.
talking about like the jigsaw.
They were connected, and then plate tectonics pulled them apart.
Still.
And there was populations of the organism on each landmass, and over time they got separated.
I'm gonna put it this way: will we ever just get the actual truth of the matter?
That is the truth.
That's what you accept. But
No,
whoever these people are, they think that this is true.
No, they don't.
There's land bridges.
The Lumeria theory disappeared completely from conventional scientific consideration after the theories of plate tectonics and continental drift were accepted by the larger scientific community. According to the theory of plate tectonics, the current accepted paradigm in geology, Madagascar and India were indeed once part of the same landmass, thus accounting for the geological resemblances. But plate movement caused India to break away millions of years ago and move to its present location. The original landmass, the supercontinent Gondwana, broke apart. It did not sink beneath the sea level. This is hands down 100% the currently accepted scientific idea that comports to all the scientific evidence that we have.
Can I just give one living example of a land bridge right now?
Yeah, there are examples of them.
Central America.
Yeah.
So how's this? That's what I'm saying. How is this too far fetched?
Because there's no evidence for it.
But we got evidence of land bridges now, and
but not
those
here.
Continents didn't separate though.
But not what continents didn't separate.
Central America didn't separate from North America.
Yeah, it did.
How? They're still connected right now. They weren't like jigsaw. There's a massive amount of geology that took place right there on an active margin, and it raised that. That's a bridge. It made a bridge. It made a bridge.
And there's evidence for that.
So why is there no? Why would you say there's no evidence for Lumeria then? Why are you?
Because there isn't. There's no evidence for it.
Oh my goodness. Okay, I'm gonna turn the internet mode off for a second.
I'm glad to know that was internet mode. You had me scared for a second.
Did you, folks? In the comments, I swear I said I'm turning on the internet for a second. That's what. I said.
I know. We can go. I get that. You were very convincing though, and that.
My job. I
guess.
But still, okay. Even with that being said, why would people believe this? And if I guess this person is I think they say biogeographer, Phil Schlater.
Biogeographer, right?
So, what would make people jump on the bandwagon?
At that time, it was difficult for people to jump on the idea of plate tectonics because there wasn't a mechanism.
Okay, that's Wegener. I'm talking about Philip.
Yeah, but he was how old was this guy? In 1864. So that was before Wegener.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Wegener was
this
elsewhere.
This is a long time ago, man.
Yeah.
if anybody is still believing this, they are ignorant to the current scientific concepts or geologic concepts that we currently understand. There are, and in relation to the land bridges, we know what a land bridge looks like in the rock record. We know what they look like today as current ones, like you were mentioning, the Panama area, the land bridge that used to be from the Bering Strait from Canada to Russia or Siberia. We know what they look like today. We know what they look like as far as in geologic evidence of what they would look like if they were eroded away or what have you.
Oh yeah, we can run like scale, like not climate models, but models of.
We can we can run models. We can take sediment samples of the seafloor. Most of the seafloor, almost all of the seafloor is basalt, right? The way you would check
would
for
it be pillow basalt though?
There's pillow basalts and other stuff like that, but it's mostly mafic basalt. If there was a land bridge anywhere, you could sample the seafloor and you would find continental rocks, right? So that's one way to test for a land bridge, and so very easy to dismantle this idea of Lumeria or things like that.
Well, folks, there you have it. Lumeria did not exist. Now Atlantis, that's a different story.
Yeah, I'm not going to say that Lumeria did not exist. I'm going to say that there is yet to be evidence produced to show that it existed.
Well, should we crack the case or just close it?
It's closed. I'm not going to spend any time looking at it because
I ain't going to lose no sleep over it.
I'm not going to lose sleep over it. But anyway, so
moving on to the next one. That was great. Like, there are so many people. Like,
no,
there's videos on Lumeria.
I think it's important to understand because in the scientific community, the migration of humans around the globe, from Homo sapiens to Homo sapiens sapiens, Homo neanderthalensis, Homo erectus, all of these Homo, the genus Homo, and the different species that branch off of it. At this point, it's pretty well known where the main migrations have taken place. There will constantly be revisions, like with Denisovans and other one. They just found a new cousin of ours in the Homo tree,
index.
Right?
Yeah.
And the best thing, the nicest thing about that is every time we add something, so far nothing has contradicted our current understanding. It's changed a little bit, but it hasn't
It should.
Right, and it will continue to do that, and it's awesome when we find new information and it adds to the bigger picture of the human story, which is great. I think.
Moving forward with the human story, I don't know how we're going to survive this next epoch with the whole climate debacle.
Yeah, I actually just talked about climate today in class.
Well, this should be right in your your field of expertise again. We're talking about what happened in Science Daily. Now, this is a report that came out yesterday. I sent you the email.
Yep, I got that. Yep.
Shelf settlements reveal climate shifts through the eons. Now, I gave you a little headline saying, "Oh yeah, we share the same air. We drink the same water."
Right.
And guess what? You're drinking water from what dinosaurs probably pissed in.
Yep.
We're just being real.
Probably
here,
drinking recycled water from dinosaur pee. It's always something cool to think about. Or worse, could be other things.
Yeah. It's Corporalite. You could be drinking water that had Corporalite all over in it. So
yeah.
But anyways, let's move forward with it. The study is by the University of Queensland. Oh, Australia. Hey, our land in the land down under. You know the song. But
I love this song. Yeah.
Climate change around Antarctica can severely affect Australia's rainfall and even influence the distribution of wet and dry zones across Southeast Asia. An international study has revealed. Now, before I go further, we already know what happens on one side of the globe affects the other side. It's a balancing act. It's a weird balancing act, but an act nonetheless. Now, the thing is, if the oceans rise I think they said just an inch, Florida's gone. Maybe parts of California's
it's a couple
gone,
feet.
But a couple feet. Oh well, excuse me.
Yeah.
I guess I was making it more dramatic.
Yeah.
A couple feet. Now is Australia gone?
No, I mean it's changed. I don't think it's gone, but it's changed. But places like Maldives, the islands of Maldives, and some of your smaller island nations, they are gone for sure.
Well, let's see what Chelsea Corpenty says from the University of Queensland School of Biological Sciences worked on this study. It says the climate underwent significant change about 14 million years ago when the Arctic ice sheet expanded, which that shit's almost gone nowadays.
Yeah.
The new study presents shallow marine sediment records from the Australian continental shelf, providing the first, Matt, empirical evidence linking high altitude cooling around Antarctica to climate change in the subtropics during the Miocene era. Now, the Miocene, how many thousand years ago?
23 million to 5 million years ago.
And how long have humans been on this rock?
Humans?
Yeah, humans.
400,000 years.
So, in the grand scheme of things, we have changed the climate a lot.
Oh yeah,
based on what the natural order is saying.
Yeah, that's so. When we look back in this, again, I went over this in class today, is the rate of change. So usually, climate change in Earth's history, when we see climate change anyway, it takes place over thousands of years. It should take over thousands of years, and we see that climate has been changing in hundreds of years, which is unprecedented in the scheme of things.
Matt, we went from horses and buggies just less than 110 years ago.
Yeah.
Now we got horseless buggies.
Yeah.
You just drive
right,
a car.
Right.
And that happened within a one human's lifetime.
Yeah. Population has expanded exponentially, and our technology expands exponentially, and so we're.
I'm gonna turn the internet back on.
Yeah, all right, I gotta go for it.
Remember.
All right, internet's back on. Hit me.
Listen, climate change it's bullshit. Okay. It's geoengineering. People have classes for geoengineering. You can get a degree in it. So, and you're falsely telling people this whole climate is hoax. It's a hoax. The car industry wants more money. Well, what do you got to say about that? You gonna tell me that? I'm looking outside right now. It looks fine. It's fine.
So weather is a lot different than climate. So weather is short term.
The weather that happened back then is the same weather that's going on now.
Yeah.
Don't. Yeah. I mean, look.
Well,
you and your hokey pokey Democrat climate change having selves.
Wow.
You need to silence that stuff, okay? It's not real. You're trying to take my job away from me. I want to go back down in the coal pit and get a job, okay?
Yeah.
All right? So stop trying to tell me climate change. It's not real. It's all about China.
China.
They told us that bullshit. Now, what do you got to say about that?
Well, I mean, there's really not a lot I can say at this point about that.
That's right.
The climate change is a very complex issue. There's a lot of variables involved.
Well, make it simple for me, Democratic boy.
Scientists across the world, from data compiled over 20 years or so, all of the data that we have points to the climate changing. We know that that's the case. The climate has gotten warmer over the past scientists in general. From every discipline. No, from all over.
Every discipline.
From all over. 130 different countries. Over 2,500 scientists, now, all compiling data.
Let me ask you this: since you're all about this climate change agenda and whatnot.
Agenda.
Yeah,
okay.
It's an agenda, just like the liberal agenda. Everyone's got one. Now, I'm going to ask you just a very simple question that has a very simple answer. If the world has a climate change every so often, and you want to say it's the rate of change that it happens, it can change overnight if the planet really wanted to. So then, why worry about it?
Wait, what?
Let me repeat, because it's very simple. Maybe it was too simple for you there.
It can change overnight.
It can. If you're trying to tell me that there's
I'd like to hear about that.
If there's climate models that you bean counters out there want to call in the lab talk and all that, if you're saying that climate changes but not at the rate that it's happening now, who's to say that it doesn't flip the script overnight anyway? If the planet wants to change its climate, it's going to change it because it wants to. Why are we worried?
So the planet is not a conscious being.
How is it not?
So it's not consciously making decisions.
Show the planet breathing with the ice spreading and retracting, and retracting. That's breaths.
Oh man, that was good. I like the accent, by the way, too. I didn't know the internet had an accent like that.
It does.
So I mean, it would take me, probably far too long than we have for the episode today to go into the evidence of. That's the thing. People like a simple answer to something, and the best I could say about that is that. Scientists have made this really simple. Climate's changing, climate's getting warmer, and humans are the cause.
Time, Matt.
We can look back in geologic history over thousands of years, over millions of years, even over hundreds of millions of years. And when we do that, and we compile the data, we look at things like proxies, we look at rock record, we look at fossils, we look at all these things to pull out what past climates were, right? And when we do that, we see that there is a cyclic pattern to climate on this planet, right? So there is an up and down nature to our climate. We understand that, 100% understand that. And 100% understand that there are constant changes in our climate. There's something that we call Milankovitch Cycles. I'm not sure if you've heard about that before. Milankovitch Cycles
I gotta link it out back.
Yeah. Milankovitch Cycles are basically cycles that drive glaciation on our planet. So they happen on a scale of 100,000 years, which is our orbital change a little bit. 41,000 years is our tilt
Now,
changes
let
a
me
little
stop
bit.
you right there. See,
And
how you going to
on-
go past 6,000 years? That's how I know you're lying.
And then on every 26,000 years,
There
our
you go with
Earth,
these arbitrary numbers.
our Earth wobbles a little bit.
We only been here for 6,000 years, man.
And what we recognize
Okay,
is
you just
that
gonna ignore that.
there
That's the facts.
are glacial times that line up with these periodicities, right?
No,
And
I don't believe it.
that's short term, right?
Mhm.
And then so we understand that. We understand the feedbacks that are associated with climate. We understand a lot about the climate. And what we understand is that these climate changes that typically happen, we are now past the actual cyclic nature. Currently,
Y'all said the same thing about Hubbard's peak oil.
so
You said the same thing about Y2K. You said the same thing about going
Y2K.
into Iraq. What are you going to just say?
Well,
Look,
what-
you
what
don't
did
know.
clim-
You
climate
don't
science
know.
did not talk
Read your
about
Bible,
Iraq.
Matt. Read your Bible.
climate science did not talk about Iraq.
6,000
First
years
of all.
is all we have been here. That's it. I don't know where you pulling these arbitrary mathematical astronomical numbers out of, but you need to put them right back. Okay?
I don't know why you have that accent. I really don't know.
I can't hold on.
So I apologize to our Midwestern listeners because
Well, you want to talk like this then, huh?
I'm trying to figure out what your accent is.
Well, it's whatever you want it to be.
Australia now.
Sure, why
If
not?
that's Australia,
I mean, we're
that's
sinking anyway. Our toilets flush the other way.
Yeah.
But in all seriousness, though, how this links into it, because I know we're running short on time now. Today was a great episode. It was fun.
It was fun. A lot of fun.
But just bringing it back in, I'm turning the internet off.
Okay, good. Phew.
I know.
Thank you.
It's rough.
Yeah.
It's rough. But that's the world we live in.
I know.
You know that.
I've heard not that argument, but I've heard similar arguments before. So
It's my
I
job
know.
to research both sides of it and bring a consensus to it. Okay.
yeah, there's
But-
not both sides to the argument. But anyway, go ahead.
Okay, now you're talking
Okay.
about just saying, oh, you're arguing with a brick wall, pretty much. That's what you're
There's one side to the argument. Climate change is happening. It's getting warmer. It is what it is. I know.
that.
I'm just saying.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, we got
okay.
that. Good.
But anyways, let's finish up this
Yep.
segment because I know you know we're running low on time
Yep.
here. But going back to the whole paleontology studies and archaeological studies
Mhm.
that base around climate, what can we say that is going to happen in the next epoch with these new reports coming out? Like if we're finding out stuff that like let me scroll back up to it, the Miocene era.
Yeah.
Okay. In the grand scheme of the planet, that's not that long ago.
No, right.
And if we're moving at an express rate that we were talking about last week with Bill Nye even talking about, look, it's not so much that it's changing. Yeah, that's fine. We know that, but we're doing it 3 times, 4 times fast
Right.
than what is supposed to happen.
Right. And
Are we going to end up? I tried to keep it light, man. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, but are we going to end up running this thing into the ground?
yeah, I mean, well, so going back to the study, because I think the
Yeah.
study is actually really good because it kind of shows you how things happen.
Yes.
Even though this happened over a long period of time, we can kind of we can pull from it what may happen in this instance. Because you were saying, we recognize that even localized things that are occurring because of climate change, they have effects that are far-reaching. So this
And
article,
they're immediate too. Some
Right.
of them are immediate.
well, like so this study basically looked at so back during the Miocene, it was right around this whole time when there was there was ice ages going back and forth. We'll talk, there's more information now. But anyway,
Right.
the Antarctic region, what they were talking about here, was cold enough to where the sea ice basically started expanding and reaching out towards Australia, and it
Which
didn't.
is sort of a good thing.
Well, at that time anyway, there wasn't obviously we weren't around as far as people go, but that process caused cooling, and it caused what's called the west wind, the westerly wind patterns to shift a little more north. So it actually shifted everything kind of a little more north because you now have a larger footprint of cold section on the polar regions.
The polar winds, right?
So everything got pushed kind of up, right? There's the polar trades, there's the westerlies, and there's the trade winds, and that forcing caused those wind patterns and things to change, right? So we know that climate, and in this situation it'll be the opposite. So we know that the polar regions are getting warmer and we're losing ice, and that's going to affect the larger patterns on Earth, wind patterns, ocean circulation
tropic
patterns,
zones.
all those things are going to be affected by this. So the thing I always tell my classes is, the Earth is going to be fine. The Earth is going to make it through this climate change just fine.
We are screwed.
The
people.
organisms on the planet are going to have to learn how to adapt.
Yeah.
Now, we might be fine, right? When it gets hot, we put the air conditioning on.
We
but-
survived the Dust Bowl.
But some communities, some civilizations won't be. We talked about this. The people in Maldives, the island nations of Maldives, will be completely.
Oh, they're gone.
They're gone. That island
Yeah.
will be inundated with water. it'll become more arid in areas like Ethiopia
Isn't
and
that
Nigeria.
kind of what happened already?
and-
That's why Africa has a large Saharan desert, because that probably was an oasis of like a
Right,
subtropical zone.
Yeah, and
based
that's
upon the sediment and all
right,
that.
and that's going to continue to happen. You're going to have areas where drought intensifies. You're going to have areas where basically when it gets hot, precipitation rates increase. So we're going to have more rain. That rain is going to be, because of the way that we've changed our landscape, the rain is going to mean more flooding, because the water doesn't simply just go into
Flooding, erosion,
erosion, aridness,
landslides.
Yeah.
So let me ask you: so since you're a paleontologist, were we not better off just being nomadic creatures then? That way we can move.
Depends on
and
what you
kind
mean
of
by
adjust.
It depends on what you mean by nomadic. I mean,
we
mortality rates were. Or it depends on what you mean by better off. So mortality rates back in the 200,000 years ago, people very rarely lived past 35 years old, 40 years old.
Well, they had other dangers. It wasn't just
Right. No, that's
environment. But,
right.
but I'm saying now, I don't want to say nowadays, but I'm saying during that transition period where people were just picking up and going.
Mhm.
And I'll put it this way, I'll put it in context. The Native Americans, stay where you need to stay for a little bit.
Right.
Eat off the land, do what you do, keep pushing. Nowadays, we don't do that. We're all about having stability and being stationary. And so with comes that its own, I guess, detriments, because like, yeah, okay, I'm stable. I can have a place. It's a little more safer. I can grow a family more efficiently, so on and so forth. But if you live in, say, Tornado Alley, and that's where you planted your roots, you're kind of screwed, because the climate dictates, okay, every time around a certain part of the year, you're going to have a Ep4 come through and tear you up.
Right.
So that's what I'm saying. Would it have been better for humans to remain nomadic, or at least a way to adjust their living situations to the climate that's around them, since we are going through this epoch?
But I think that's kind of how we are now. Like, we're adjusting. We have air conditioning. We have technology to get us through some of these hotter times.
Simulated, though.
Right. But I mean, it's a hard question to answer, because our population size is what it is, and we couldn't. With this population size, it'd be difficult to be nomadic.
But that's what I'm saying. It's because of our population. It's because we remain static. That's why our population has grown so much.
Right. But
So
I guess my point is that we probably wouldn't be here. You and I probably wouldn't be here if we didn't settle in these things. So you can't say
Okay,
there's
I see.
better.
Okay.
Right. So
it's that dualist, not dualist,
Right.
that cognitive dissonance. It's like, okay, well, if you did this, that wouldn't have happened.
if the population didn't boom, we would not be here. That's for sure.
Okay.
So
but,
if populations stayed stable like normal populations do,
but what's a normal population?
there's
defined as a normal
what's
population?
called a carrying capacity, which is what the upper limit of what a population can hold. So a classic example is that of like wolves and rabbits in a certain area, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if the rabbit population increases, then that means more food for the wolves. So the wolf population will increase, and until they eat enough rabbits, so the rabbit population decreases, and the wolf population will decrease, and so on.
You use wolf and rabbit. It's the snake and mongoose. That's what,
There's all kinds,
Yeah.
and you can even look at human civilization. If you go back to before modern medicine and before all of these technologies that we have, if you watch human population, even going back to there is a carrying capacity. So one of the things is like diseases. So if you look at human population, it was growing, and then the Black Plague hit, and human population dropped way off.
But that was due to sanitation issues, though.
Right, but in any population, when you start to get concentrated, then disease and pandemics usually keep that population in control.
So it sounds.
But we have medicine, we have technologies that help us get past the environmental pressures that would normally cause populations to be kept in check.
But then it's like, damned if you do, damned if you don't. Even if you check those things, new things arise.
Well, yeah. I mean, the biggest thing that we can do at this point is to make sure that we keep our fertility rates at a replacement rate, which is 2. So if every person has 2. If every couple people have 2 babies, then that's a replacement rate. So when you and your partner die, or you and the people who have those 2 babies die, then they're replaced one to one. Most developed nations have a fertility rate of 2.
Here comes the internet again.
Of 2 or less than 2.
No.
Places that have more fertility rates are usually your rural areas that need help with food, need help with farming, need help with those types of things. And as women become more educated and there's more opportunities for women, fertility rates go down.
The New World Order eugenics program is in full effect.
No, it's not a eugenics program.
It's eugenics?
It's called education.
chemtrails.
It's called education.
I can't do a third round of internet.
Yeah,
I can't.
It's taxing on the mind. I would
really
imagine.
Is, but it's great entertainment. But still, okay. So just so we can close out here, because I know our time's pretty much spent right here. But even though you said it's hard to answer that question, if you could answer it, what would you say? And I'll repeat the question for those listening and for you as well.
Okay.
Would it have been better that humans remain nomadic, or at least more mobile wherever they take up station? And then it's like, okay, as soon as the climate changes or whatever migrational pattern of food that's there changes, would it have been better just to stay mobile versus being stationary today?
I wouldn't say it's better we would have become mobile. I would say that it would have been better had we understood the limits of our manufacturing and how we should manipulate the planet. But staying put, there was a lot of benefits to staying put. So I don't think that I think that staying put and having civilization in a definitive area was a benefit to society as a whole. I think that nomadic, that way of life is, I think, very difficult. Only not many people do it today. Even those tribes that are, sequestered and not modernized or whatever, they stay within a very confined area and they do their thing. So I don't think that would have been a way to go.
All right. Well, I appreciate that answer. At least you answered it. Most people I don't want to touch that thing with a 10-foot pole. But that's our time for today. Thanks for listening in, folks. We don't have a topic just yet for the next episode because this, like I said, this was a two-parter from last week.
Right.
We're just picking up,
carrying over a little bit.
Exactly. So, folks, remember, whatever you do, make sure you use some science or sense when you're out there in the world. Throughout any journey that you may partake in, yes, there's going to be some crazy nutball theories out there, but you got to remember to look past that and look at the bigger picture.
Right.
Use science or use your sense.
Yep.
I've been with my co-host, Matt.
Yep.
And this has been
a pleasure.
And this was Science Sense episode 4. We will be back next week.
Yep.
Same time. And, we'll have another entertaining topic.
Yes, hopefully
and educate you. So,
yes.
Good night. Good luck.
See ya.